Everything's coming up to Timberwolves. Yeah, in the zone. Simple dedication to the team when you're in the know. To Timberwolves. Yeah, in the soul. Lifting all the positivity for the Wolves to grow. So, where we going from here, man? We listen week to week to get the clearest to clear. Recaps, got that. Soundcap, got that. Team ads, got that. So tell me what they do not have, huh? How dare you? Foolish question to ask, but I don't mean to go brag. But boy, they got all the stats, and they could go all the way back from KG to Zerbiak. And all I'm saying is that the cast a one-stop shop for my Timberwolves. Timberwolves. Ain't a thing falling, everything's coming up. Timberwolves. Timberwolves. Falling from the autumn, ain't nobody gonna stop them. It's the Timberwolves. Timberwolves. Phonies, you can spot them, they the sheep under their clothes. Timberwolves. Timberwolves. Talk a lot about them, y'all don't really know. Let's go.
Welcome into another Everything's Coming Up Timberwolves podcast. My name is Gabe Anderson, and I'm joined this time, no Chris, no Jared this week. Chris is on vacay, but we do have one of our favorites, Blake, in to talk a little trade deadline. Blake, how we doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, and I'm feeling kind of optimistic. I'm kind of excited about what we got going forward, but we'll get your take in a minute. Of course, unless you probably know the trade if you're watching this, but I'll recap everyone just in case. Malik Beasley, D'Angelo Russell, and Jared Vanderbilt goes to the Lakers. Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Mike Conley to the Wolves. A number one pick and Russell Westbrook go to the Utah Jazz. So, Blake, let's just get right into it. Your overall thoughts of the trade, like what
Sure.
from a Wolves perspective?
I think they're just real quick. I think there's a couple other guys that went to Utah. I don't think they're big names, but I think there might have been one or two others.
Yeah, or what? Toscano Anderson or whatever.
Yeah, I think Damian Jones.
He'll move the
From
needle.
the Wolves' perspective, though, when I first saw it, I was not happy about it. I'll say, to me, it seemed like we talked about it in the past a little bit, and I didn't see anyone I liked that much more than D'Lo. Like Fred VanVleet's not bad, Terry Rozier's not bad, but none of them I thought moved the needle. Mike Conley too. Like we'll get into him for sure, but none of them really moved the needle. I thought too much. So at first I was just like, why wouldn't you just extend D'Lo? And once the dust started to settle and my gut instinct kind of went away, I started to actually think about it, and I warmed up a bit. I'd say, to me, it was more about who we traded with than what the trade deal was. I was not excited to trade with the Jazz and give them any more help on principle. The Lakers are a pretty spoiled franchise. I did not want to help them. But to me, it just seemed like the Wolves and D'Lo were not seeing eye to eye on their whatever their number was on contract, 20 million, 25, 30, whatever the number was. It seemed like they clearly just weren't going to get there. And to get a $20 million point guard, get Conley, he's getting older, but he's still serviceable. To get a flyer, and to get 3 seconds, second round picks were flying today, but to get some assets here instead of just letting them walk, I think was a smart move in the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the interesting thing is, I guess, like the theme of the day for some reason, and this wasn't a thing with the Wolves, but 5 second-round picks seem to be flying back and forth. I don't know what it was, but a lot of teams are going to have 5 second-round picks from other teams. Now, go ahead.
I don't know how many of them were new picks in this pool or were picks that were traded and recycled to like 4 different teams in the same day, but I was like, do second round picks, I can't tell if they matter or don't matter at this point or what.
Right. See, my thing is it usually takes about 5 second round picks like 5 actual picks to hit on 1. I would say that's kind of the success rate of a second round pick. So I mean, we'll see. But yeah, so my take on the whole thing, first of all, like the group chat was blowing up. Everyone had their opinions, and I wanted to wait on it. Like we heard about the trade earlier on in the day. That it was potentially going to happen. We didn't know. And I was like, okay, I don't want to pass judgment on it until we see everything, we hear everything. So then when the trade finally went down, I thought about it a little bit. First, I was disappointed because, don't get me wrong, I am a huge D'Lo guy. I do like D'Lo a lot. But I think what'll be good about it is I don't think the lows of D'Lo, I don't think Conley has the lows that D'Lo has. Does he have the highs? I don't. Obviously not. Like D'Lo's a better player than Mike Conley, but I think that Mike Conley will fit better in the system. I think he's going to unlock Rudy a lot. I think he's better on defense. D'Lo can obviously get destroyed on defense a lot of times. So I'm pretty positive on it. And I mean, Nickeil Alexander-Walker is a 40% three-point shooter now, very low usage. But still, I mean, if we can get another shooter, that's always good. So, like I said, I'm not banking on Nickeil Alexander-Walker playing basically at all with this team. But if he could be better than Bryn Forbes, it's an upgrade.
Bryn Forbes was a surprising one just because he wasn't a great all-around player, but he was kind of a sniper for certain teams. And to see him just not play well for us was disappointing. I want to see Nickeil Alexander-Walker play just a few minutes with us, see if he fits in the system, see if he's kind of a long-term piece, just garbage minutes, real minutes, whatever. But I want to kind of get in the D'Lo versus Conley a little bit with you.
Yeah.
I agree. The Conley has a higher floor but lower ceiling, and I think it could be his age a little bit, but overall, he's not going to shoot the lights out. I think like D'Lo can do. D'Lo's streaky, but he's not going to shoot the lights out like that. But yeah, him and Gobert have played together. I know there's been talk of D'Lo passes the ball really low to a 7-foot giant in Gobert versus Conley will lob it up to him and hopefully get him the ball more there. We've seen a few games where Gobert has not just gotten the ball. He's gotten like 0 shots or 2 shots on the night. And for a $40 million a year guy, you can't have that. And to me, I think, like it or not, Conley's kind of like a stopgap point guard. I think that's what seemed frustrating to a lot of Wolves fans initially was D'Lo was he was seen as part of the future, and you could give him a 4 or 5 year contract and maybe be happy with it. I mean, contract year D'Lo might be very different than next year when he's paid D'Lo and he might slump again. But he's 26 or 27. Conley's like 35, 36. He's not a long-term fit guy. But I think for a couple years, I mean, just today, we can see how fast rosters move. This is a good move to hold us over.
Right. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And the other benefit, of course, of Conley Jr., we should say. We always forget about that he is a junior. There was a first Conley. Yeah. The positive Conley, he is under contract next year, and that's a big thing. Now, is he going to be here next year? Who knows? We got to see the fit. He could come in. The fit could be perfect. He could be lobbing 10 times a game to Rudy Gobert and everything's great. He hits a couple or catch and shoot 3. Because that's the thing. This is a move to give the keys, if we haven't done it already, which I feel like we should have. If we have not done it already, this is absolutely a move to just give the keys, the ignition, the steering wheel to Anthony Edwards. This is what that move is, because D'Angelo Russell, he's still a little ball heavy. He handles the ball a lot, takes a lot of shots. Conley's not going to do that. He's going to shoot a little bit when we need him to, particularly I think on catch and shoot threes is where I see. In fact, I saw a stat. I don't have it with me. That just shows my preparation. But I saw a stat that that Conley over this year and his career is better in catch and shoot threes than D'Angelo Russell. Now, D'Angelo Russell was better off the dribble, but I don't see Conley taking a lot of off the dribble threes anyway with this offense.
Yeah, and I think especially if and when Cat gets healthy, there's just only so much ball to go around, basically, between all these guys. So I agree. I don't want to I mean, it's still good to point out that it is nice to have a guy that can shoot when he gets hot like D'Lo and that. But and I don't want to say having a guy that has less points per game is better necessarily. But in this case, yeah, to give Ant the ball more, let him get that leap, to give Rudy the ball more, hopefully, because he's been underutilized. Yeah, I think he will be a good floor general. Where D'Lo was more of he could be a floor general sometimes, then he was kind of a shooting guard playing point guard sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. He was more of a 2 than a 1, for sure. Like, he was not – as much as the true NBA point guard is kind of not a thing anymore in today's NBA, he's kind of like the old guard where the true point guard, kind of the early 2010s where they did have the true point guard. I mean, some of those Memphis teams with Conley at the helm, I mean, they made it to the Western Conference Finals, and they had success with the Jazz as well. So I'm not saying that Conley was the main catalyst of all the success over the years, but Conley has shown that he can win some games at least.
I mean, he had help, but he was an all-star 1 year in Utah, and he was, just fun fact about him, you may remember this, it was probably like a decade ago when he was on the Grizzlies. The cap went up 1 year with a new NBA TV deal by like a lot. And for like a day, he was the highest paid player in NBA history because he was like the first one to get his max.
Oh, yeah.
And so like by far, he is the highest paid player just for 24 hours or so.
Yeah. I do remember that. That was interesting. I forget what year that was, but yeah, I mean, he's earned every penny that he's made. I mean, it's not like it's a D'Lo where it's an overpay. Plus, I mean, also you're getting off of money, right? Like he's less expensive than D'Lo. I mean, it's just the fact. Plus, with what we were going to have to pay him in the offseason, he's just a less expensive option. And I think the point guard that the Wolves need. Also, what we haven't mentioned yet is his defense. I mean, D'Lo had a couple steals here and there, but I think it's going to be great for this defense. Rudy Gobert, Jaden McDaniels, Mike Conley, defense, and has been playing decent defense. He's up there in the leaders with steals on the year. I think our defense just got a lot better now. The negatives on Conley, obviously, he's old, right? So, like you said, he's not.
That's like the number one.
Yeah, like if this was Conley, like even 2 years ago, this is a slam dunk.
Yeah,
like no one's playing.
It's not even. I mean, he's lost his step a little bit for sure, but it's like you said, especially with the pay for him. What I think Wolves fans were hoping for D'Lo, I don't know the numbers. I'm just going to guess was like an 18 to 22 million. And that's what I think Conley is like 20 or 21 or something. And I'm guessing D'Lo is like, I want 30 plus. I would assume probably. That's not anything factual. It's just my ballpark guesses watching the NBA. But to have a guy for at least a couple of years that's on that lower side of the spectrum of what the Wolves wanted is big. And yeah, the defense too is a really good point. D'Lo last year, I thought there was a little bit of a narrative there of he was starting to pick it up on defense, whether it was just with the system or what, but he had been known as kind of a good offensive player, not the best defense. He was tightening that up. This year, he wasn't a traffic cone necessarily, but there was a lot of, some bad defensive plays and then a lot of lazy turnovers too on offense. I think that was my biggest gripe with him was just plays where he would toss the ball to somebody and somebody on the other team would just pick it away and go for a layup. And you're like, what are you doing? Like, why didn't you throw that ball hard to your teammate? Why did you just lob it over? Like, it seems it's it's just the little button-up stuff that he wasn't – for as good as he was shooting, there was all that other little stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, and then you compile that on top of like the mistakes that Jalen Noel would make, and it feels like, oh my gosh, we are throwing this game away. Like, yeah, go ahead.
I would say Jalen Noel, somebody that I kind of wish we would have traded today, especially after his 30-pointer last night. But yeah, I agree. That's another the guys that can get buckets but are not as good on the other side of the floor.
Yeah, and that's a thing we'll talk about in a little bit that I thought we could have made, particularly for what he ended up going for. I thought we could have definitely dealt like a Noel and really some second-round picks for like a Bones Highland. I really thought we could have made that dunk, considering he only went for 2 second-round picks. I guess that was just how eager the Nuggets were to get rid of him. So I don't know.
I don't follow the Nuggets as close. Bones has seemed like a solid young player like that. Clearly had a market. If the Wolves wanted him, the Clippers wanted him, who got him. I don't know why they were so eager to get rid of him necessarily, but yeah, I would have thought getting 3 back and how quick seconds were flying today to say, yeah, we'll give you Noel and a second-round pick. To me, that wouldn't have been insane. To get him, because I think they're similar players, Noel and Bones. The reason I think you'd want Bones is just you need a cheaper long-term contract. Conley definitely gets you a better spot for asset management in that you're in that $20 million range. You're not 25, 30 like D'Lo may have wanted. Speculation, but what I'm guessing. And you need some of those cheap guys that can still produce. And Jalen's an expiring, and to have Bones for a couple of years would have given us some of that. That's the like Jordan McLaughlin and Naz Reid are kind of coming up on that. They were guys that were producing at like $1 million a year for 3 or 4 seasons. And you're like, how do we have these bargain bin guys that are actually doing things and not just sitting on the bench?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be interesting without the D'Lo contract if we're able to sign like a Naz Reid in the offseason. Like I know they've had some contract talks already. In the ballpark of $10 million is where we think Naz is going to ask for. So maybe they're able to go and sign him, which I would love. I would love if we kept Naz Reid. And if I think this whole getting rid of D'Lo thing is going to do more good than bad. I guess the only thing that could go bad is if Conley like completely regresses. But he's shown he's on an all-time low for points. But still, he's still the starting point guard of a pretty decent Jazz team. They're going to go downhill now with some of the moves they've made. The Jazz are not going – they're going to play hard, which is kind of why I was kind of confused why they didn't – maybe they tried to and just couldn't find anything. They're going to have a lot of picks, but why they didn't try to trade like Clarkson or Markkanen, I guess maybe that's a bad look to have your team's only all-star – traded right before the All-Star game in your city.
I say you're hosting, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a great look for your squad, but I'm a little surprised why they didn't completely barrel out that team and just get us even more draft picks. But I guess in some level you got to compete and got to keep fans coming in. You got to, because I know Utah has a very loyal fan base. They like even that Wolves game, like. I saw a little bit of it last night. That place was full. That's not there's Ants, who's always an attraction, but it's not like let's be honest, it's not like Curry's in town. It's
not the Warriors or big market team.
That's an avid fan base. So I guess you got to keep some reason to keep coming to the games. Make sure that people aren't checking in 2 or 3 years from now, but.
Yeah, you can't just bottom out completely.
I'm a little surprised they didn't empty the wagon.
Yeah, I think they didn't fully, but they did more than I expected. I kind of am wondering about your opinion on how the Jazz and Lakers fared in this compared to the Wolves. The Jazz, I felt they were not going to get draft compensation from the Wolves. No chance.
Not again.
Basically. and I've seen a lot of people tout this as a really good Jazz move. And to me, this is just them bowing out of the very tight Western Conference race for a first round pick. I don't want to say that it was the worst thing in the world for them to get more draft capital, but to me, they were, if I had to rank the teams and how well they did in this trade, I would say Lakers did best, Wolves did second best. I would say the Jazz were the worst. And maybe that's, every team has different angles of what they're trying to do right now, different situations. But to me, I don't know if you could have gotten a lot more draft picks from the Lakers, but it seemed like they didn't get that much if they're not going to keep Russell Westbrook.
No, and like I said, I don't think that Russell Westbrook is going to play a single game in a Jazz uniform.
I doubt it.
I highly doubt it. So yeah, I think it's just the Danny Ainge effect, right? You're so used to him just fleecing other teams to get a bunch of draft picks that when he only gets one, it's like, oh, you only got one draft pick. I think now it may be the situation that they have already so many, or they already have so many that they're just like, yeah, what the heck? We'll add one more. We'll get off of. We'll get rid of Conley. I mean, to be honest, as much as Conley's good for a young team, he wasn't going to be there the next time they make a run. Like no. he wasn't going to be part of that nucleus. He'll probably be 40 the next time they make a run. No, probably not that, but yeah, like he wasn't going to be long term. And then like, what are you doing? I think that Utah was a good, a good place to showcase their talents, like for Malik Beasley and Jared Vanderbilt a little bit. But yeah, I think if you're Utah, you're not as happy. I'm sure, just like our guys, like the podcast we listen to, I'm sure in Utah they're like, oh, we got a first round pick. It is top protected. So if the Lakers are really bad, then
sure,
it's nothing. But obviously, we don't know in 2027. You feel like the Lakers, they're always going to be decent, right? Like someone's going to want to go to LA.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, they might have had a couple years between like Kobe and LeBron, like things like that. But yeah, for history has shown that they've just been relevant, basically, some way or another, for the most part.
Right, which is amazing to think that the Clippers in that LA market were so bad for so long, which is just crazy that they couldn't put anything together. But I think it's a little different with the Lakers. Like they're the Lakers. Like when you think NBA basketball, you think the Lakers. Or
it's like the Yankees of basketball, base. Yeah.
Yes. What is it? 16 or 15? I think they're up to 16 championships.
Yeah. And I think they did the best. Honestly,
I agree.
They gave away a couple draft picks and things, but they got off the Westbrook bandwagon that they didn't want to be on anymore. So they're happy. Like their biggest trade piece to make all this salary match, like they didn't want him. So they escaped that, and they got a new set of role players for LeBron. With D'Lo being a playmaker, a shooter, Malik Beasley being a spot-up shooter. He can be kind of streaky like D'Lo, but both of them can make 3 after 3 on any given night. And then Vando he's an unsung hero kind of guy to me, just that glue guy, dirty work sort of thing. Like you need those guys that are just going to die for the ball sort of thing. So it's crazy that those 3 were on the Wolves a year ago, and now they're all on the Lakers together as LeBron's new like role players. But I guess that's what it is. I think too that's what, maybe I said this at the beginning, that's probably what made me more upset about this trade initially when I wasn't really thinking about it. Was I didn't want to trade with Utah out of principle, and I didn't want to. The Lakers are a spoiled franchise. I did not want to help them. But if those are the guys that have the assets and it just makes the rock, paper, scissors of point guards go round, like you kind of just got to do it.
Right. Yeah. Like deal with the a little bit just to make what you need to happen. They needed a 3-team deal. They probably weren't going to get it with somewhere else. And Like from what I heard, that the Wolves were actually the one holding it up. The Utah and the Lakers were ready to go, and then the Wolves were like trying to figure out the draft capital thing. So I am certain that the Wolves shopped. I'm sure that they shopped for Bones. I'm sure they shopped for Fred VanVleet. I'm sure they shopped for Terry Rozier. Or if not shopped, they made a call. Like
they had those they for sure had conversations.
Yeah. And that's all you can do really at the end of the day. I'm hearing people like calling for Tim Conley's head, like, oh, he's ruining our franchise. I don't buy that. Like, give him a little more time. Now, and it's kind of sad that except for a few games, we'll never get to see the whole thing that we were hyping up. D'Lo, Jaden, Rudy, Cat, and
that's starting five.
Yeah, that's starting five. That we'll never really get to see that action. But hey, maybe a new one with just put Conley in there and we can see what can happen. So I don't know. I kind of like it. I agree with you. I think the Lakers made off like bandits in this trade. I think they did great. But I can't wait for the first night when D'Lo has one of those D'Lo games where he shoots like 3 for 15 and disappears on defense. I can't wait for the Lakers media to crucify him at that point because it's going to happen at some point. It's going to happen. How I know that is it happened here. So
and it'll happen there just times 5. It's going to be there's going to be nights where he goes 7 for 8 from 3 and he is the hero of LA. And then there's going to be that 3 for 15 night where everyone's like, why did we trade? Like very reactionary fan base, I feel like in LA will just be for his head. The draft pick thing though, you mentioned real quick. I'm glad they stuck it out. I mean, there was other things going for 5 seconds and just comical amounts. So 3 might not seem like as much, but for how draft poor we are and wanting to build this winning franchise, it's very hard to have this team that you want to keep building up and up, but also have no draft picks and try to get more. So to be able to kind of sidestep in a way and get draft picks, the more I talk about it, the more it seems like we got a good deal out of this. Because you can't really – you're not upgrading players and getting draft picks. It just doesn't work that way. So to at least like do a lateral move and get draft picks, I'll take it.
Right.
And then we were talking about D'Lo and then a little bit of Nas earlier, like his $10 million. I don't know how you feel about so where I've landed here, and I think a lot of people have, is they were going to walk, so you needed to get something for them. Do you think D'Lo, it seems like there wasn't something there, but D'Lo or Nas, I guess, do you think it would have been worth exploring or future worth exploring for Nas, just to sign them to that higher amount that they want and try to just trade them later? Like you can just still have that asset on the books.
Mm-hmm. Let me think about that. I don't know. I think if you're going to do that, I think the easier thing to do it with Nas, just based on money. Like, I mean, because Nas is going to get $10 million, D'Lo's going to get 30. So if you're hooked into a $30 million contract for D'Angelo, for a guy that you're not exactly sold on and plan on trading, like, I don't know. Also, I don't know what kind of. I feel like Mike Conley's kind of the ceiling of who you're going to get for like a D'Angelo Russell. Like, and the other guys we mentioned, maybe Terry Rozier, Fred VanVleet, but I don't know, unless you're going to do a blockbuster trade where you do 2 big salaries like Cat and D'Lo, and you get like KD or something. Like that's the only way I could see it happening. Maybe Nas, like, sign him to that contract and then try to deal him later, because it's pretty easy to find someone on a $10 million contract. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I got to take my emotions out of this because, like I said, I love D'Lo. I've loved watching him play. I think it's sad to say this, but he's one of the best point guards we've ever had.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean it's a short list. But like for sure.
If we did a if we did a tier list, I think the S tier would be like Stephon Marbury and Sam Cassell.
Sure.
Probably the 8. He's probably in the 8 tier. Like,
yeah, I mean,
maybe Rubio. I don't know.
Rubio, Derrick Rose.
Yeah, but Derrick Rose was, I don't know. He wasn't here long.
He was definitely not Chicago Bulls Derrick Rose, but he dropped 50 for us.
That's true. But so did Sadiq Bey. So
yeah. I mean, Mo Williams, Corey Brewer.
Yeah, that's true. Like that would be an interesting. By the way, we got to put that like maybe an off-season thing, like tier listing, like Wolves positions.
Yeah,
like,
that'd be fun.
Like, I'm just thinking about like centers. Like you got Michael Olowokandi. I'm trying to think of Nikola Pekovic.
Sure.
Who was Darko Milicic? Remember we had Darko Milicic and he was just out of shape. Like
champion.
Like you could physically see that he was out of shape going up and down the court.
God, no, he's like second pick, NBA champion Darko. That's my S tier right there. But yeah, I would do that in the offseason. That'd be fun. But to loop back quick on the
go ahead.
I agree with you on the Nas piece that he at 10 million is much easier to do something with either way, keep or trade, than a D'Lo would. I like the idea of it. I heard some people give that as a counterpoint of like, we could have just kept him and we could trade him later. And that might have been true. But the closest example I've seen of this, I don't want to say backfiring because I don't think he's a bad player, but like John Collins on the Hawks seemed like a guy that was like a good, not old player, like youngish that you wanted to keep around. You could probably get something for him later. And he seems like he's been kind of eternally on the trade block. And no one said, we like him, but we don't like him for that contract sort of thing. Seems to be the case. And that seems kind of like where I'm seeing D'Lo at with this. If you gave him 30 million, is a lot of people say like, yeah, he's not bad, but we're not going to pay him all that.
Right. Yeah. John Collins, he's been on the trade deadline he's been on the trade block during the trade deadline for like the past 5 years. So we don't, like you said, we don't want that situation where we can't get rid of the guy. Like, and that's why I think, and that's one of the big things about Conley is if it doesn't work out, he's so expendable. Like we could get rid of him like that, and not for nothing either. Also, I heard something where like not all of his contract is guaranteed. Like,
really?
So it's something like this. If we have him after the draft, like the moment the draft ends, like the last 14 million of his contract become like guaranteed. So if we trade him, like let's say, even if it does work out, like even if it's great, but we don't want to have him for another year, we trade him draft night, we save that money anyway. So
sure.
Yeah. I mean, also
not that I don't want to get a guy to get paid, but it's nice that we have some flexibility.
Right. Also, I want to bring up something that I saw floating around, and tell me if you can read this or not.
Sure.
All right. So apparently, John Krasinski was on, and this is like a note. This was on Reddit. John Krasinski was on Dan Barrero, KFAN Dan Barrero.
Yep.
Basically, he was saying. So actually, I'll just read it. He said that D'Lo openly talks shit about Gobert in front of teammates and other coaches and teams, sometimes even on the floor. He said D'Lo wore his dislike of Gobert on his sleeve. Also said that D'Lo did not want to throw lobs to Gobert and had little interest in working with him. Several times, media came to the locker room and he could hear D'Lo being frustrated with having to play with Rudy and John, insinuating it was awkward to hear. Rudy also knew D'Lo did not like him, and then the rest. Rudy's excited to play with Conley. He can trust him. And then the Wolves did pursue Bones, Bey, and Crowder. But I think the top is now why we didn't. I don't know if like John Krasinski can't like report on that earlier, like wanting to kill team chemistry. But it kind of. I'll keep it up a little bit. It kind of sounds like D'Lo was not happy about Rudy Gobert. So, I mean, which I know a lot of fans aren't happy with Rudy Gobert, but if you're going to pay that guy that kind of money, you kind of got to get a cancer out of there.
Yeah. I think John Krasinski, when I've heard him speak I've listened to his podcast, I've heard him on the radio. He's very diplomatic, I think, in the way he talks.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, so I don't know if he's going to get into the like nasty side of the Wolves and because he needs to interview these guys. He doesn't want them to see he's writing negative stuff about them and them not answering his questions in future interviews and things. So I think he does a good job talking diplomatically. But yeah, I mean, I guess we don't have that proximity to the team to see it day to day in the locker room, that we're not sitting courtside to see those, unfortunately. It's if true, it's unfortunate. I believe it. It's unfortunate though, that they just didn't work together well. And I don't know if it was he was just mad because him and Cat are best friends, and he'd rather play with Cat and Gobert. They're both 7 feet tall, but they have totally different play styles. And if he just want to do more of that, I don't want to say D'Lo's credit here or anything, but there were a few games where Gobert was out, especially earlier in the season, where Gobert's a little bit of a slower style play. I think I brought this up in the past. He left, and I think a lot of the players that were here last year were more comfortable playing in their old schemes that were more fast movement, more transition. That's where D'Lo seemed to want to play. And yeah, I agree with you. When you have a guy you traded King's ransom for, you're going to want to play to his play style, being Gobert's. And yeah, I can see D'Lo just saying, I don't want to do that. And there can be some headbutting there, but yeah, if that was really going on, then the talk of do we extend him and try to trade him down the road becomes a moot point, because then we need to get rid of him, basically.
Right.
And with contract year D'Lo playing as well as he did and shooting as well as he did, it was a good time to sell high, I guess. Yeah, it's one of those. It's just an unfortunate, and it might be good for Conley to come in if him and Gobert have played together, they know each other's styles, that sort of thing, versus the Gobert saying, pass to me high, lob it up, and D'Lo bounce passing to his shins.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's an unfortunate one, but I guess, yeah, I'm sure it happens, and that most teams just don't want this to be in the media as much.
Right. Yeah. Maybe against Memphis, which would be tough because they got Steven Adams and Xavier Tillman and whoever, their other big guys. But maybe Gobert comes out first game of Conley, and maybe he's awesome. Like maybe he puts up 25 points. And it's interesting to see Russell saying, I don't want to throw lobs. I would love if I had just even pickup. Like if I had a 7-foot big man and I was the point guard, I'd be throwing lobs all day. Think about Ricky Rubio in that kind of scenario. Like I'm sure he loves throwing lobs to like Jared Allen and Evan Mobley and stuff. I love that. Yeah. Man, that's ridiculous to me. If he really didn't want to give Gobert and also we see it all the time, and this isn't just D'Angelo, but we see Rudy wide open all the time.
Yeah.
Like coming off a screen or just posting up. Like he's got a little guy on him. He's got him. Like he does a little thing where he catches it and then just puts it over his head into the basket. Like he's open. At least we miss him like 8 times, at least a half, I think.
Yeah.
Well, now, is he going to catch the ball and score? I don't know, but he's open at least.
Yeah, and a frustrating. I'm not going to say that shooting a floater is the same as lobbing up a pass, but to me, when I saw like D'Lo in Brooklyn, like when he was playing really well there was so many pick and roll floater plays, and it's like you could just do this as like lobs. Like you know how to get the ball up, you know how to work with a big man. Like I've seen you X and O it with other teams. So it's unfortunate to see them not play together, because I feel like a lot of Wolves fans, when they were trying to think about how the Gobert trade fit with everyone, they thought a lot of people seem to think D'Lo pick and roll and D'Lo and Gobert would be on the floor at the same time, and Cat would be on the floor at the same time, that sort of thing. They're going to stagger them. But yeah, for whatever reason, maybe just the attitudes weren't right. They butted heads. I don't know if Gobert ever talked back about this or if Gobert was quiet about it or what, because I haven't really heard from his side. I'd be interested in that.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Who knows if he is going to say anything? Maybe he's just going to be like, hey, let's let bygones be bygones. Let's move on. I got Conley now. I know Conley. I like Conley. Let's not bury. Like, for example, like when Austin Rivers was asked, like, what did Mo Bamba say to you? He was like, oh, I'm not going to say that because I don't really know him. Like, maybe it's like, hey, let's just let it be in the past. Let's move on. And that's how I kind of feel as a Wolves fans a lot of the time. Like when people are, oh man, I wish we still had Beasley, and oh man, I wish we still had Patrick Beverley. Like, let's just move on a little bit. Like, let's move forward. Like, I guess I hate living in the past. Like, once you're not on this team anymore, like, okay, maybe in my younger years I still have like some nostalgia for like Ricky Rubio, and maybe
I still like Ricky. I'll admit
it's hard to, I don't think anyone hates Ricky. Like I don't think anyone in the league hates Ricky. But like there's this whole thing where like for example the example I love to use, the meme where it's like Wolverine looking at a photo and then it looks at the photo and it's like Jared Vanderbilt and Malik Beasley. It's like, let's move on. Like let's celebrate the team we do have. Can we just celebrate a little bit now? Now that I say this, they're probably going to go downhill. But let's celebrate a little bit the fact that we have a Wolves team that's actually contending and doing something. Like, I'm not saying contending for a championship, but do you know how, and kids, close your ears, how shitty the Wolves have been for years? Like, for years. And I get the whole thing, like, oh, we had something special with these guys. I know me and Chris have talked about this a little in past podcasts, and I'm sure you brought it up too. I think if the Wolves don't make the trade for Gobert and Cat still goes down with the injury that he did, I think we're in the same place, or maybe even worse than we are right now. I really think that.
I think we're worse off if I mean, I don't remember who's where, but like you basically are just starting Naz Reid and having Luka Garza as your backup. And not that either of those guys, like those guys have been playing great for being bench unit guys. We're starting to have, I don't want to say we have a full logjam of all-stars there. But yeah, if Cat was down, I guess we'd have Vando. That would help, but it would be tough for sure. So I agree with you, and I think too there is some of that, whether it's nostalgia and things, but I do think too a lot of people are very good at looking at things with hindsight and not just saying like at the time this was a good idea. I don't want to go down super far down this road, but one trade I will always defend at the time is the Jimmy Butler trade. Every Wolves fan celebrated it. Everyone thought it was great. Zach LaVine was injured at the time. We made a poor draft pick with Justin Patton with our trade swap while the other team, the Bulls, got Markkanen. It's like there was some stuff there, but like on paper, that was a draft day trade, and everyone said the Wolves basically just won the draft by doing that trade. But then obviously Jimmy drama happened. People didn't like it, and then people will say we could have kept LaVine, and like, yeah, that's true, and it might have been great. But at the time, with a guy that was high flying, doing dunks and things like that, who had an injury, and you didn't know if he was going to transition his game to something else. To me, it was just like it made sense at the time, and I feel like that's just one example I have, but I don't want to get far down that road. But I've seen a lot of fans do that too, where they say like, well, now I'm seeing this player do well, or I'm seeing this player do bad, so we should have done this. And it's like, you didn't know that when it happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'll give another example. Like, How many people said that we killed the trade when we traded Wiggins for D'Lo?
Yeah.
Like, how many people were so on board for that as well? I mean, like, you never know. It's a crapshoot. You never trading is unless in even like can't miss wins, like sometimes can be losses. Like, what if KD's first game with now I don't wish this to happen. Like I said, I don't wish this to happen, but what if KD tears his ACL in the first game? You don't know. Like, it's impossible. It's impossible to know. Then, well, actually, if that happened, I still think the Suns are a playoff team.
Sure. Yeah. No, they're still great. But yeah, and there's just so much butterfly effect. Like, I don't want to get back into Jimmy Butler, but like, they were like the Rockets were offering 4 first-round picks for Jimmy at the time, or when we traded him for Robert Covington and Dario Saric from Philly, then the Wolves, Philly, the Hawks, and the Nuggets all traded in like a few years ago on like a 4-team mega deal. And like, I remember the game after that was the same year with the D'Lo trade with Wiggins. The first game back, they reintroduced the entire team because like 10 people were new. And like Josh Okogie and Kat were the only people that had been there more than like 2 seasons. So it's just, for how fast it moves in the butterfly effect, like you just never know, basically. Like, it's fun to guess at sports, but you just, that's all you can do.
So let's take a question. I like this question. I was going to bring it up, but a good question from Synodex. So who do you think will take the D'Lo shots? More Jaden on offense, and how does this impact Cat's return? Do you want to go first, or go ahead?
I can start, sure. I think the D'Lo shots, I don't think it's going to transition straight from one guy to. I don't think it's just D'Lo took a lot of shots, now Conley's going to take a lot of shots.
Yeah.
I think Conley will still shoot. I think Ant will get fed the ball a little more. I think I am hopeful and pretty positive Rudy will get fed the ball more. I do think some more Jaden on offense. He does shoot some like corner threes. He has gotten his handle better this season. I can see him being utilized more. If Kyle Anderson doesn't have back spasms, I can see him getting it. Bench players getting it. I think Conley will take some of it, and the rest will be pretty evenly dispersed among everyone else. It's one of those where we said it earlier. There's one ball, and there's D'Lo, Ant, Gobert, Cat. You don't have that much room to give all those guys 20 points per game. And so this will evenly distribute a little bit more. I haven't thought about the Cat part as much. I can talk about my guesses, or do you want to go?
Sure, yeah. I can talk a little bit about
or the answer the D'Lo shot stuff, up to you.
Yeah. No, I can follow the Cat for sure, yeah. I think it's only going to help Cat, someone who takes less shots, because that's going to open up for more. Like I said earlier, this isn't about Cat. This move is about Ant, and this move is about getting Ant a point guard that can distribute, that can catch and shoot threes. Like this team, with this move, it's handling the keys to Ant, and so to answer the question of who's going to shoot more, Ant. And I think that's who needs to shoot more. Now, obviously, maybe it'll go down once Cat comes back, which we got to mention. Who knows when the heck that's going to be? Like, it was weird because like we kept being told, oh, Cat's not coming back, McLaughlin's not coming back, and then all of a sudden, oh, McLaughlin's questionable. Oh my gosh, he's playing. So it might be the thing where one day we look at like Minnesota Timberwolves PR on Twitter, and it's just, oh, look at that, Cat's playing tonight. So good signs. He was on the road trip with the team. I don't know if that's just a morale thing or if that's like him coming back soon. I don't know. I doubt he plays this road trip. I doubt he plays before the All-Star. But how does this impact Cat? How about a guy who can distribute a little more and maybe space the floor? And he's not only with shots, like he's going to help with his defense. So if you have a better perimeter defender, and what's his name, Rudy guarding the paint that allows Cat to just maybe not take possessions off on defense, but maybe save a little more for offense. I think it's going to help. What do you think? Particularly more, do you think more Jaden a little bit, or like I could see Jaden getting a little more shots, because I feel like if we're going to build around him, he has the skills to do it. What do you think?
Yeah, I can see Jaden getting more on offense. I think Ant will get more shots, and he's deservedly so, but the only reason I'm not saying Ant as much is because he's already the number one option. He's already getting a lot of shots, sort of thing.
Right.
So he could get more, but it's going to be marginally more than somebody like Jaden, who could definitely see a little bit more of a jump in shots. And I agree with you on the defensive side here. It seemed like a lot of Jaden and Gobert were great on defense. Ant I think his basketball IQ is getting better, but it's not perfect. D'Lo is a little bit tougher to watch. I think you don't necessarily need to hide Cat totally, but it might help a little. And even though it's a point guard, versus a big man, I mean, any bit on helping that perimeter when you have Gobert sitting in the paint will help. And then one other thing for the injuries, McLaughlin, I think he's coming back at a perfect time, because Conley's played like half an hour a game his career, basically. And that I think it may have slowed down a couple of 2-3 minutes in the last few years, but not much. I looked up his basketball reference page the other day. He's basically been half an hour. So he is getting older, but to have McLaughlin come back and share some of those minutes is nice, rather than just having D'Lo run up and down the floor for however much you need him to.
Right.
With a set of legs.
Also, I don't mind Rivers being out there either. Like for short stints, like throw him in there. I don't mind Rivers. Decent pickup I think a lot of our pickups in the offseason, other than Bryn Forbes, who we don't even have, like he may be the worst player in Wolves history. But I don't know if he's that bad. But
that's a deep question, but sure. Sure.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think a lot, like Slow-Mo's been great. We haven't even talked about him. Mm-hmm. I think Austin, for what we got him for, has been great. Yeah. So yeah, it'll be interesting going forward. Hey, let's just for sake of time, let's go into any other of the trades. Like we can talk about KD. We can talk about because I think we beat this one to death at this point.
Sure.
Any other trades that stand out for you? And also, you wanted to talk about the reshaping of the West a little bit. Why don't you talk about that a little bit? Sure.
Yeah. To me, it looked like I think the Wolves kind of sidestepped while looking at the future with a little bit of draft capital, a young player, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker. But it seems like the West it might start to see some separation after this trade deadline. I think where we've just seen everyone's been stacked on top of each other so much that it seemed like a lot of these teams have said, we're going to be the ones to make the jump. Basically, like the Kings are sitting at third. Like we can, nothing against the Kings, but like we can go over them. We can do whatever. And so to me, the Wolves kind of sidestepped this trade deadline, which I don't think is bad. They didn't regress. Utah's the only team that really totally bowed out. And then Phoenix, the Mavs, and the Lakers, I think all got a bit better. Dallas, the least so. And I don't know if I like the Kyrie move like long term, but they must have liked it enough to say, this is another star player that we can get to bring us up further. And then getting KD and then LeBron getting a supporting cast. Like, to me, the Wolves are in some tough waters now moving forward because the teams that didn't do that much, Nuggets and Memphis, they've already gotten a little bit of a cushion standing-wise, and these are the teams that the Wolves are basically neck and neck against that are all looking to jump forward. The Lakers less so, but the Lakers seem like a team that if they can make the playoffs, they'll be happy. And I just really would not want to face LeBron in a play-in game, like in a one-game series.
No, I wouldn't either. No, I particularly like, and then there's a whole narrative like, oh, D'Lo's revenge game and everything. But yeah, like here, let me share my screen. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at the standings just as they
Sure.
Here, let me. I'll put it here 1 second. Let me open it. But yeah, like I agree with you. It's going to be tough. Here we go.
Yeah, I mean the East didn't do that much, honestly, compared to what the West did. And maybe it's because East players went West.
I think that's exactly it.
Yeah, but like Toronto didn't do anything substantial really. The Bulls didn't do anything. The Heat didn't do anything. There were some teams that like I thought were gonna be making moves and just didn't over there.
Yeah, my biggest shock was that, and maybe that's because I listened to a podcast that has two big Toronto Raptors fans, so they were shocked. I'm surprised OG Anunoby or Pascal Siakam or Fred VanVleet are still Raptors, but maybe that's too. Maybe it was like a domino effect. Maybe all those teams saw other teams not doing anything, so they're like, "Oh, okay, we're just going to stick with who we got and see what happens."
Yeah, If the East got worse, I mean, comparatively, you could say the Nets got worse. Things like that. That now, I'm not saying the Bulls are a championship team. I'm not saying the Raptors are a championship team, but they're saying, okay, that's one team we just leapfrogged, basically.
Right.
Sort of thing.
Right. And we're not like let's be honest. And I know Chris has been very vocal about this. The Wolves, unless something insane, unless Ant becomes like Wilt Chamberlain in the next couple of days, the Wolves aren't winning a championship this year. It's not going to happen. What we can hope for, and what I think we've been hoping for, is making a first round series and then competing. Now, my ideal thing. Now, I think, and I think you're right, particularly with KD. Now, a lot of it's going to be hinging on injuries because KD's hurt right now anyway. But my ideal situation is what we had a couple weeks, I think about a week ago, where we were the 6th seed. Who I want to play in the first round? I want to play the Kings.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that would be
number one.
I think that would be I think just the games we've seen so far this year, I think that would be blow for blow a great series. I'm not saying we're going to win it, but I think we got a shot. And 2, man, that would be fun. Ant versus De'Aaron Fox, Sabonis versus Rudy. That would just be a fun series. Now, some of the other teams. Now, hey, like you said, I think just based on the moves they made, I think that, like you said, the Met. So let's just look at this. Like, okay, so I think the Nuggets will probably, just where they are right now, stay in the 1 seed.
They're gonna hang on. I think they'll hang on at 1. Jokic has just been balling.
I think
I don't want to face them either. Like after a couple days ago.
No,
thank you.
Then the Grizzlies. I think the Grizzlies could fall a little bit.
They're not as high as they were. They've slumped as of late. It seemed like there was 2 at the top, 2 at the bottom, and 3 through 13 were the same. Now it's like 1 at the top with the Nuggets and 2 through 13. Like Jazz are gonna fall, things like that. But the Grizzlies are getting more in the mix for how many games are left.
So here's the thing. I think at this point it's going to be tough for the Wolves to not be in the play-in. Now we gotta play hard and fend off like the Trailblazers and the Warriors and stuff. But I think even if we're the 10 seed, I think we're going to be in the play-in. Now what I want is the 6th seed and to play the Kings. But I think we're going to be in the play-in. Like, for example, okay, let's just look at the play-in teams right now. The Pelicans did not get any better. The Warriors.
No, I'd go against them. They've had some injury problems too.
Though Zion did kill us, but
yeah, that's fair.
But who knows? Who knows if Zion is going to be there? So the Wolves. Let's just say they moved sideways. Like, let's just say net. Now we haven't even talked. I don't know if we'll get into it, but we haven't even talked Nickeil Alexander-Walker. But I don't know if there's much to say. He'll play a little bit, but okay. So let's look at this. So Pelicans, who we're 1 percentage point under them right now, just because we have one more win, they have one less loss.
Yeah.
So Pelicans, they didn't get any better. They're just waiting for Zion to come back. Warriors, who are without Curry right now, they're going to evaluate after the All-Star game. But who knows? A week without Curry, who knows where they can fall to?
I don't know where they'll land, but that is the team. Like, that's the team I want to play the least, I think. They've got playoff experience. Like, if Curry comes back healthy, like, them and the Lakers seem like they could be 2 play-in teams that we might have to face that just in a one-game matchup, like, give me the Pelicans, give me the Kings, give me those guys, give me the Grizzlies. Well, I know, like, the Grizzlies aren't probably going to be a play-in team, but, like, give me those younger teams. Do not give me the LeBrons and the Currys that have that playoff experience to just go shot for shot with.
Right. Now, what we got to remember is just to make the play-in at this point, the Lakers have at least got to play 500 ball and probably a little better. So, they're still the 13th seed at that point. So let's look further. Trailblazers, they didn't really do anything. They lost Josh Hart, so I would say a net negative for them.
It's Damian Lillard kills us, but otherwise I would be fine playing them.
And it just depends. Like, Damian Lillard, I don't think he's ever been in a one-game scenario, but so really, I think the top of the West got a lot better. Really the Clippers. I think the Clippers got better. I do at some of the moves they made, but ultimately, either way, even with the moves they made, it's going to depend on the health of Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. So, I mean, like, let's be honest, the play-in game last year, I think if Kawhi Leonard's there, I don't know if we win.
No, I would bet against it.
Yeah.
I like Kawhi. He's tough.
Right. And particularly in a one-game scenario, like, stars come out and shine.
He led a team to a championship.
Yeah. So I mean, like, you're talking about the top of the West got better. I really think it's the Clippers, Suns, and Mavericks that got better, in my opinion. And everyone else kind of stayed, and the Lakers too, but they're not at the top of the West right now. So
the Lakers, I thought, were one of the teams that improved the most, but they have the furthest to climb.
Yes. And let's take a look. So it's going to be interesting. I think it's on next. I got to check my TNT. It's got to be on. Yeah. So the Lakers play the Bucks. So it's actually going to be interesting. I'm looking at the Lakers schedule right now. And now that they're over the whole, let's be honest, they came back a little bit, but one of the reasons they lost that Oklahoma City game was because of the whole LeBron, point
record.
Like he had nothing left in the fourth quarter. He had nothing left.
He got 36 points with still in the third quarter.
Yeah, and then he had that took a lot out of him. So I'm looking at. So it's going to be very interesting. I feel like the Lakers kind of hold their own destiny because they play the Bucks, which is going to be a tough game tonight. Then all teams that they need to pass or are trying to pass: Warriors, Blazers, Pelicans, Warriors, Mavericks, Grizzlies, then the Thunder. So, I mean, they kind of hold their own destiny if they can go on a run. But if they can't, like, let's say they go 5-5 in that situation, they might be buried and not even have a chance to recover at any point.
Yeah, that's true. It's one of those where, like, I both don't want to – I'm not a huge LeBron fanboy. I don't want to doubt LeBron, but also he's like 38 now sort of thing. So We'll see if they can climb up. Looking, I just looked up the Wolves schedule. Similarly, in terms of their next few games, they do play the Wizards and the Hornets in the middle here, but their next games are the Grizzlies, the Mavericks, then the Wizards and Hornets, but then the Warriors, Clippers, Lakers, and then the Kings.
Yeah,
that's like early March. So it's 2 games of East teams that we should beat, and everyone else is like right at where we are or the Lakers.
Yeah, so yeah, we kind of hold our own destiny too. Now I will say we have been playing well against the Grizzlies. As far as the Mavs, I don't know if Luka's going to be back yet. We'll have to see. He didn't play last night, although the Mavs did win with Kyrie. So
Kyrie did well.
Yeah, he did. But the thing is, we got to take care of business. We got to take care of business against the likes of the Wizards, Hornets. We just got to take care of our business. I will say, yeah, like looking at the schedule, it does look difficult going forward. But hey, these are the teams you got to beat in the playoffs anyway. So.
And we don't play well against the bad teams. I think the Pistons losses and the Spurs losses, like those are what's gonna eat us alive at the end of the year. Is just saying like we should have won those games.
Right, for sure.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to go over here? I mean, I'm happy to keep talking if you want, but
I think just for time we should probably wrap it up. Were there any other trades that you wanted to talk about, really, or
your man Eric Gordon got traded?
Finally.
I remember one of the last times I was on here, like, we should go for him. He always shoots well against us.
He does. He really does. He's finally out of – I think the funny thing is that John Wall is back in Houston.
Oh, yeah. Do you think he's going to stay or do you think he's going to get bought out? I assume bought out. The
question is, who is there – if it didn't work with the Clippers, what other contender is going to take a chance on him? Like I don't
know. Yeah, that's a good question.
Oh, and then go ahead.
Do you think the Clippers are going to take Westbrook?
Maybe
if he gets bought out by the Jazz, and do you think it would be smart for them to take Westbrook?
You might as well just he's not going to start, but if maybe coming off the bench he could be a good. Like I would love, believe me, I would love to see Westbrook go to these Western Conference teams and screw them up. Like that would be great. Almost like kind of like a chance. Like that's why I wonder. That's why I'd be leery if I'm a Mavs fan. Like, okay, Kyrie's great now, but what if he does something stupid around playoff time? Like,
you've got to. Kyrie's such a gamble to me. Like I love watching his handles on the court and things, and I don't want to get into his off court what he does, but I think he has just come away like Boston. He came away unhappy. Others like the Nets, he demanded a trade just last week. Like he definitely is not always thinking about the team right there. He's thinking more about himself in some of these situations. And so if the Mavs say, hey, this is a close race, maybe we can get him to help Luka to pull ahead, great. But yeah, long term, I wouldn't start giving my draft picks for Kyrie. I'd be hard pressed to, especially like Dinwiddie's a good player. Dorian Finney-Smith's not a bad player. Like they gave away decent assets for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure if he's happy and motivated, he'll play well. But other than that, I don't know. The last thing I want to say on this, and I know we didn't talk any Neil Alexander-Walker, but I mean, do you have anything to say on that, or?
No, I want to see him get some minutes is mostly it. Just in some capacity. I mean, I assume Conley's going to get kind of charged with the task of fitting into our schemes right away and expecting to mesh with Gobert right away with only having so many games left in the season. But I want to see him get at least some meaningful minutes, just in a second quarter for 5 minutes here or there to see how he does, see if he's an asset worth keeping moving in the offseason, that sort of thing. So he's 24 years old and his numbers aren't awful. Basically, they're not, he's not an all-star, but they're not awful. He could be serviceable.
Yeah. It's a flyer. It's taking a shot on a guy, but yeah, we'll have to see. So, by the way, last thing I wanted to say.
Sure.
I know that Patrick Beverley is going to be bought out by the Orlando Magic. He's not coming here. Okay. Can we just get it through? And I'm talking to other fans now too. Can we just get it through our heads that Patrick Beverley's never going to happen?
He's not coming back this year.
He's not going to come back. And just, gosh, I'm sick. I'm sick of people, instead of talking about the Conley trade, like, oh, we need to buy out Patrick Beverley. There's a reason that the Lakers got rid of him. There's a reason that he's being bought out by the Orlando Magic. Now, some contender is going to take a flyer on him, I bet, but we don't need Patrick Beverley.
I've heard the Bucks.
Yeah.
Is what I heard rumored.
I don't know. We don't need Patrick Beverley. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, any final thoughts?
No, probably just that. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Conley fits. I think it'll be hopefully a good fit moving forward to at least keep us in the running. I would love to see us land at that 6th seed to play the Kings. I would love to see a 6-3 matchup there with two playoff hungry teams who have not had it much in their histories, but we'll see. It's an every game counts, and to me, this has been a more stressful but more fun regular season to watch, with just how close every game is and how much they matter. And it's not like, oh, we have to go on a streak for the next 2 weeks to beat the next team. It's like, no, every one of these is shaping the seeding for a couple months from now.
Right.
So, anything you want to go over?
No. I just want to say that I'm glad the Wolves didn't clear a roster spot for Patrick Beverley. That's all I'll say. Anyway, this is the Everything's Coming Up Timberwolves podcast. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and hit the bell on YouTube because it really does help. And make sure to follow us and give us a 5-star rating or whatever rating you think we deserve on Spotify. And as always, go Wolves.